Hey guys, how's it going? Today we're going to talk about how to hire a virtual assistant that can help you grow your business. Virtual assistants are a big part of you scaling your business. It's incredibly difficult to do it without them or without just in general any help, so you will not be able to scale your business by yourself. It's going to be pretty rough because you can only get to a certain point, and after that you're going to need someone's help. So virtual assistants come in very handy. We're so lucky we live in 21st century, and during this times it's actually much easier than ever before to hire a virtual assistant. But the problem is with hiring virtual assistants right now, there's so much information out there and sometimes it's not very clear as who to hire. So I'm gonna give you a couple examples or a couple methods how I go through when I hire a virtual assistant for my business, and so that you can just follow the steps and hire one for yourself as well. So let's talk about number one. Why would you want to hire a virtual assistant? And there's multiple reasons for that. First of all, and the most important one out of all of them, is that you want to free up your time so you can invest that time in something else. Because virtual assistants should be helping you with daily tasks that it's good that they do it, someone has to do it, those kind of tasks, but it's not the best investment of your time. Let me clarify. So when I started my business, all I was doing pretty much daily, I was using my texting software to text a lot of leads and hopefully talk to a lot of sellers. Then if the sellers were somehow interested in selling, then I had to talk to them on the phone, then eventually get it on the contract, go see the properties, etc., etc., etc. But here's the thing. The texting part, with me, the fact that I just sit there and I click the button that to text and reply to many people, most people are just going to tell me they're not interested in selling anyway. Some people will say it's wrong number. Some people will say, oh, it's this person's property and that's not my property. Things like that. Those tasks could be replaced. It could be done by someone else. You don't have to be doing them. Obviously, when you're starting off, when I started off, I didn't really have any money to hire anyone, so I had to do every single thing in my business I had to do myself. And your situation might be the same. It might be different. Maybe you have a little more funds available to you and you can hire someone right away. But even then, my suggestion is for whatever you're going to hire someone to do, my suggestion is to understand that part of the business before hiring someone else. Understand it yourself. Maybe don't do it for many months like I did. I had to do texting for probably about 8 months, 7 to 8 months before I hired my first assistant. But in my opinion, that you have to understand how that part of business works so that you have healthy expectations from your virtual assistant to start with. And second of all, when they have any questions, you know that part of business so well that you're going to be able to answer most, if not all of the questions. Of course, if you don't know everything, you're going to have to look it up and kind of research and help them out. But in general, even if you do it for a month or two, you can get a general feel, general idea how that part of business works. And when you hire someone, like I said, you will have healthy expectations from them. So let's give an example. Let's say you're trying to hire a cold caller, because cold calling is much more time consuming than texting. And I feel like cold calling is one of the first things someone hires a virtual assistant for in real estate wholesaling. So that's number one. You determine that you need a cold caller. Number two is to find one. Like I mentioned before, thank God we live in 21st century and we have internet, and you're just able to look on a couple different websites to find qualified people to do the job. When I started, my first virtual assistant that I hired was from Fiverr. It was pretty expensive, to be honest with you, and it wasn't like a full-time virtual assistant. What was there is that I had 6,000 leads and they had to call those 6,000 leads and get information. It didn't really work out because there's a couple things that I don't like about that type of virtual assistants and how that works. They're not very motivated to find you deals. They're motivated to call all the leads and say the job was done because they didn't promise you deals. They promise you they're gonna call people, and you may do call recording and whatever and kind of listen if they had any conversations, but they're not very incentivized to get good leads. We'll get to that in a minute, how I incentivize my assistants to get good leads. But in general, when you hire someone for like a one-time job, it's probably not gonna work out that well. And it didn't for me. I spent a couple $100s on it. I think overall I spent like $500 on this assistant, and it didn't work out well at all. She was very nice and everything, but it didn't bring me a single deal. There's also a website called Upwork. You could use that one as well. I never actually used it. What I did one time, I posted a job there, and every application that came in was too expensive. Like, when you're starting a small business, you're not always able to pay someone $15 an hour to do cold calling. That's a lot of money for you. So, especially if you want to do it full time. So I was like, okay, how can I figure this out? And I had a conversation with one wholesaler, and he said that all of his virtual assistants are actually from Philippines. So I found a website that actually does that for you. The website is called onlinejobs.ph. So when I went on that website, it was kind of interesting. So first of all, you can post your job and see how many people apply to your job. And the rates are completely different. They're about half the rates of American virtual assistants. Before you jump and say, oh, you're not paying them enough, you're slaving them away or whatever, that's not the case. My virtual assistants, they legit thank me for offering them the jobs that I do. I literally had conversations with multiple of them saying that if it wasn't for you hiring us, or someone from overseas hiring us, they're like, we would not be making anything out here. So we really need the money that you providing us to support our families and live at least a decent life. So I absolutely believe them, and I've done some research as well. The money that I pay them is pretty much more than their average salary out there. Obviously, there's some wholesalers that kind of abuse it, and they pay very, very small amounts, smaller than like I could imagine. So don't abuse it, in my opinion. Obviously, you still get what you pay for. So if you're finding a virtual assistant that does it for half of what I do, then you're probably not getting a good service. They may not be knowledgeable and may not have the qualifications, which is going to be the next step. Qualifying your virtual assistants. Number one, obviously, when you post that job on onlinejobs.ph and you get a bunch of applications, first of all, you have to look at their resumes, look at their applications, look what their what kind of experience they've had. A lot of them had experiences in like customer service, etc. So they had like calling experience, but it wasn't cold calling. Okay, people were calling them, asking them questions. Cold calling is a little bit different. It's a little more rough and it's a little more tough. So you have to, in my opinion, I try to hire people that only have any experience with cold calling. People that don't are not particularly in my interest. Also, I would love to have someone that have real estate experience. If it was real estate agents, that's fine. It's still not particularly great. But if they had a real estate investor and real estate wholesaler experience, perfect. They get how the systems work. A lot of times they will actually be using the same systems, Cold Tools, Mojo, ZenCall, for cold calling, or Podio for CRM. So they already have experience with that. So a lot of times you don't have to train them much. My suggestion is still to train them to an extent. I would suggest providing videos of how you want certain things done. What I do is that I have videos of every software, then I upload it to a Google Drive, and then every new virtual assistant that I hire, I send them to that Google Drive and I say, here's the instructions, here is the videos, I need you to learn this before we start working together. So let's say you hired a virtual assistant that works for you, you did multiple interviews and you found the one that has, in my opinion, for good qualifications, they have to be good knowledge of English, experience, comfortable doing cold calling. Those are the main top three if you're doing a cold caller. So how do you maintain those virtual assistants during whatever time they're gonna work for you? So what some wholesalers do is that they ask the virtual assistants to install the software that screens their screen time while they're working. I don't do that, okay? So I understand why they do that, because if you don't really trust the virtual assistants that work for you, you kind of want to make sure they're doing their job. A lot of times I'm not always on top of them. I don't control every single thing they do. And if they're not calling for 5-10 minutes, I'm not calling them like, where have you gone? But if I see like a bunch of 1-hour breaks in between, or 30 minutes, 45 minutes breaks in between, I'm like, what's going on? Are you calling or are you not? A lot of times you will notice that by the amount of calls they've made. So in my opinion, here's how you have to do it. Here's how you should maintain your virtual assistant. First of all, you should be monitoring every day how many leads have they found, how many calls were made, how many hours they worked. A lot of systems like Mojo or Cold Tools, they'll actually provide you that information. So at the end of the day, go ahead and log in, make sure they're doing their job, everything is good and well. You don't have to look at their screen 24/7, but at the end of the day, still jump in and make sure they're still doing their job. Then after that, when they work for you for a month or so and they haven't found any leads, then you have to question, it's either your lists are not good, either they're not good on talking on the phone with them, or they're not working enough. You kind of have to determine the problem. So a lot of times you will have to analyze what they're doing right or what they're doing wrong. I know there are some companies out there that actually offer you to hire and train virtual assistants for you and maintain them, but it's a lot more money, and I have no problem managing my assistant myself and create a good relationship with them. Me and my assistants communicate through Skype. Every day when they log in, they text me, "Good morning, hey, I'm in," and then when they log out, they say, "Hey, I'm done for the day, I'm logging out." That took some practice to get to it. There's some that when they started, they were not good at that. For me, it's incredibly important for someone to be on time every single day, have that really good work ethic. That's incredibly important for me. And it's actually sometimes more important for me than you having real estate experience. If you don't have good work ethic, I can't really teach that, but real estate, I can teach you that. So it's not as complicated, in my opinion. So that's all if it comes to maintenance. And number 5 is actually pay. Pay structure, how you should pay your assistant. So the range that you can hire a virtual assistant is like anywhere from like $3.50 to, obviously, if you hire them in the US, it could go $15, $20, whatever. So, the lowest you probably go is $3.50 per hour, okay? And that's obviously going to be overseas. I like to pay them a good base pay. And on top of that, I also pay them bonus per every single deal that they've closed, that I've closed on from their leads. So not only they're interested in working all those 40 hours every single week, not only that, but they're also interested in finding leads. They're interested in finding many leads as they can, and then they're also responsible for following up and stuff like that, the way I structured their work schedule. So they like to follow up and make sure and try to get some deals, try to get contracts. So they're motivated because bonus is actually almost as big as what their weekly pay is. So, if they close a deal, they get an extra week of pay, which is pretty great for them. They're very happy that works out that way. I'm not saying that's how you're supposed to structure your pay, but I'm saying that's how I've done it, and it's been very, very good. Everyone does their job and everyone works and tries to get as many deals as they can. I also pay them weekly. I use PayPal to pay them. You do get like a little percentage taken off every time you pay through PayPal. PayPal takes like a processing fee. So you have to incorporate that, so it's about, sometimes could be anywhere between like $5 to $15, somewhere in that range. So normally mine is like about $10. So I pay them weekly because I want them to make sure that, I take care of them. I pay them every single week. They really appreciate it. Some virtual assistants told me that they've been burned by previous wholesalers and investors. So they would work a month and they were expecting first paycheck at the end of the month, and the wholesaler would just disappear and not pay them. And they can't do anything about it, unfortunately. They're kind of screwed. So they pretty much just worked a full month for free. So for me to prove my virtual assistant that I want to take care of them, I pay them every single week. We split it in a certain amount, and it's every single week, and they're very happy that I do it that way. I believe in keeping your employees happy so that they will be, profitable to your business. They're your investment. So you have to invest in your people. That's how I treat this virtual assistants. I don't treat them as just like, they're there, I don't really care for them, whatever. No, I actually want to build a good team. Right now, we are in the process of hiring 4 virtual assistants. I had a couple, but then we had to fire them, and unfortunately, because it didn't work out. That will also happen. You may find people that you think they're great, but there's going to be reasons that you don't like working with them, and it's better to part ways for both parties. That will still happen sometimes. But yeah, guys, that's about it. Hiring virtual assistant could be kind of scary when you start off, but in my opinion, just start by, like I said, finding why you should hire a virtual assistant, finding the websites to go to and post the jobs. I suggest onlinejobs.ph. Then go ahead and qualifying them, making sure they're qualified for the job, doing the interviews and all that stuff. Number 4, just make sure you maintain them throughout the time. And number 5, obviously make sure you took care of them by paying them properly and taking care of your employees. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Please leave a like if you did, subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying this kind of content, and comment down below if you have any other questions. And as always, guys,